My soul has often found relief, and oft escaped the tempter's snare by thy return, sweet hour of prayer. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, thy wings shall my petition bear. To him whose truth and faithfulness engage the waiting soul to bless. And since he bids me seek his face, believe his word and trust his grace, I'll cast on him my every care and wait for thee, sweet hour of prayer. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, may I thy consolation share, till from Mount Pisgah's lofty height I view my home and take my flight. In my immortal flesh I'll rise to seize the everlasting prize, and shout while passing through the air, farewell, farewell, sweet hour of prayer. Please be seated.
I'd like to welcome each one of you here this evening. Glad you all came out. Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for your many blessings. We thank you for another day of life today, Lord. We thank you for the opportunity to serve you in your vineyard today. Bless each person we came in contact with today, Lord. Help them to have seen Jesus Christ in us. And Lord, be with us this evening as we listen to the testimonies of what you've done in other people's lives. Thank you for the blessings they're going to be to us and encouragement they're going to be to us to stay close to you in all times. In thy Son's holy name, amen. Tonight we have 5 speakers, and so at this time I'd like to invite Carol Bivens to come up front and speak to us. The other night she came to me and said, Harold, I got a testimony to share. And I said, come on, you can share Friday night. Well, I had to think about it first, but she's sharing.
Yeah. In the first place, I didn't really think I had anything that was worth sharing. And after I listened to all these testimonies, I said, you know, I've got something I need to share. At 17, I became an Adventist, okay? And once I became an Adventist, it didn't make any difference what you did. I did not believe that I should save any money for retirement. And I didn't. I didn't blow my money, but I did not have a planned retirement. And I was thinking about this the other night, and I had a girlfriend who had a planned retirement, and she had an option. She could take it, you know, month by month by month, or she could get it all one time. And she opted to take it all at one time. And she had said that, Carol, if I had made any more money than I make right now, she says, I couldn't afford to live where I'm living. And I thought about that at the time, and I realized that I'm lucky. Although I did not, anytime you were forced to take a retirement, and believe me, I didn't exactly job hopped. What I did was a doctor would come along and say, okay, what would it take to get you to go to work for us? And I said, I'll show you my paycheck stub. Beat it. I'd be off working for them. And when I was living in Detroit, I worked at probably almost every dialysis unit. I even helped a couple of dialysis units that were about to close come back up again. And I moved to Texas and started a dialysis unit and promptly got fired. Yes, kind of surprised me too. But in the state of Texas, you really do not have to do anything wrong. All you have to do is they just don't have to like you. And it wasn't that they didn't like me, it was a matter of some Valium that went missing, and I was complaining about it. I couldn't find it. I was fired because I knew about it, and the lady who opened the building and set everything up, she was sent way, way away where she would either have to quit or get a new job. Either take the job and move her family cross country, and her husband didn't want to do that. But they were kind of caught in a crossfire, and I said, I'm going to tell them. And I stopped because I heard this little voice say to me, Carol, the lady who signed for it has 3 children. Do you want her to be out of a job? So I took the firing nicely. But they said I didn't know how to run a dialysis unit. That's what because I had not had, the reason for firing me was because I had not had a fire drill. That was their reason. And I actually got my job. I could have been on unemployment for as long as I wanted to, but I already had another job. But the point I'm trying to make here is the last job I had was with the state hospital in Kerrville, Texas. And they make you match. They take out so much and you match it. And when I was getting ready to retire, I said, well, I'm not going to retire for a couple of years. I'm going to be 65 in December. I'm not going to retire. And they come along, and the state hospital was very angry with a employee. And they come to all of us, and they said, we want you to watch this one employee. If we catch him napping or doing anything, write him up. He had a health problem. He had a big ulcer on the calf of his leg, and he was absent so much going to the doctor's appointments that they made him come to nights. And they told me that, and me being who I am, I said, I wonder how long I'll have to work to put a new air conditioner in my house, because that's all I lack, is just put a new air conditioner in my house, because I've remodeled this whole thing. Went down, talked to them, got 3 bids, worked a month and a half, gave my deal, and they said, it's August, you won't get your Social Security card till December. I said, God will take care. I got my card on the 12th of December, and on the 15th of December, I came down with pneumonia. Does God take care of us? Yeah. Now, what I asked him was to remind me, or to call me or let me know, and he did, and I didn't see it. I have this jacket, and of all the years that I worked at the state hospital, and I worked there 8 years, 7 months, nobody ever did this for anybody else. I had a guy that worked for me that he had this big woolly jacket on the inside, and I would get his jacket, and I'd say, okay guys, I'm taking my lunch break, and I would go take my hour of lunch and all my breaks at one time, and I worked nights, and I made rounds with everybody. I didn't sit in the office like some nurses did. I made rounds with my people, and they also sent me out anytime they had a really bad unit for the night. They sent me there, and I was the one that drew all their blood for them, for their labs and everything. But every everybody at the state hospital signed this jacket. I meant to bring it. I'm sorry I missed. You guys would really like. There's all these names on this jacket, on the inside of the jacket. And that's what they presented to me the last night I worked. And we all had a great big feast. So when I look back at this, all the years I worked, I had no retirement. So God put me in a place where I have retirement. Between my retirement and my Social Security, I live quite nicely. Not a lot, but all the bills are paid. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for sharing. About 6 weeks ago, I called my daughter and I said, would you do a testimony? We could testimony. And she immediately, can you believe this, told her daddy no. But her roommate was sitting close by and said, I'll do one. And I said, you will, Tyler? And she said, yes. And so she said, Haley has to sit on the front row. So you see Haley up here on the front row because Tyler's getting ready to talk next. And that was part of the deal. If Tyler got up or Haley had to sit on the front row. So come share with us, Tyler.
Okay. So I am pretty young, and a lot of people think that, well, a lot of people tell themselves that I'm a teenager. I don't have a testimony. Like, who has one of those? But me, growing up, I grew up in the Adventist Church, and I've gone to this church all that I can remember. And I just remember when I was younger, my parents split, and I was just like, okay, okay, God, why? Bring my mom back, please. But I can remember vividly almost every night that I can remember when I was younger, sitting in my bed after my dad tucked me in, looking out my window, and just bawling my eyes out, praying that my mom would come home and everything would be okay. Because I love my parents so much, and I didn't want to not have both of them, and I still got to see my mom, yeah. But it's like, you want your mom when you're sick. You want your mom when you're sad. You want to be able to sit down and talk to your mom at dinner. And I didn't always get that. And it was okay. I was like, I can do this. I got to see her every other weekend on Thursdays. I was like, this is fine. And then one night I can remember, I don't know what we were coming back from, but my mom was driving, and we were going to drop my sister off at home, and then we were going to go to my grandma's house so I could spend the night with her. And I was like, Mom, are we ready to go? And she's like, I'm tired. Could we stay here? And I got so upset that she wanted to stay at my house because I wanted to go to my grandma's house. And she was like, can we just stay here tonight? I was like, okay. And I was still upset. But after that, I realized a lot more frequent visits from my mom. And I was like, is something happening? Because I wasn't used to seeing my mom that much. And I was like, okay. And then my dad got into an accident, so my mom took nursing. I don't know if she went to nursing school, but she was kind of like a nurse, and she would help people. And she came and stayed over while my dad was getting fixed up, because I think he ran into a pole with his motorcycle. I don't know, it was dark. And she stayed home a lot, and I was like, this is nice, I could get used to this. And I realized that sometimes it doesn't just take prayer, it takes a little push from people to stay over. Just people being tired kind of helps a lot too. But I realize now that if they had gotten back together too soon or too late, I probably wouldn't be okay. And I probably wouldn't have, I guess, the same personality or the same feelings and the same, I guess, experiences I do have now. Because that one night, multiple other nights, I don't know, this is the one night I remember that she stayed over. And I just remember praying and thanking God that she came back. But then, since I was older, I noticed a little bit more that my parents fought a little bit. And that's what everybody does. You fight. I fight with my siblings all the time. Me and Tessa are kind of crazy, but it's just life, you know? And I started to realize that people fight and argue in marriages and argue in relationships, and I'm like, I don't want to get into a relationship. Like, that's scary business. But now I tell myself, I'm like, it's okay, because my parents fought through it, and they love each other very much, and I love them for that, because they gave me something to believe in, that even if something doesn't work out right then, maybe it's not supposed to happen then, maybe it's supposed to happen later. And it just gives me hope for tomorrow, that I can believe that I'm going to be okay and everything's going to be great, because not just because of prayer, but because I have faith in something that's going to happen tomorrow. And also, my mom told me not to throw her under the bus. Did I throw you under the bus? Okay. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share, and thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Tyler. Next year, Haley can do it. Lauren, I got to know Lauren Castagna very well when she took care of Debbie's mom. Debbie's mom had Alzheimer's for 12 years, and Lauren was there the last 4 or 5 months of Debbie's mom's life, and she was there the night Debbie's mom died in our house. And I came to love Lauren for what she did for my mother-in-law. And so I invited her to speak this year, and she said yes. So Lauren, you want to come forward and talk? Following that, she's a very sweet lady, if you don't know her. She took good care of my mother-in-law.
Well, if y'all don't know, that the child before this that spoke was my daughter. So I'm going to give you the story of me leaving and me coming back. 12 years ago, I left my family. I left the church. I left everybody. I left because of things that had happened in my childhood and in my past that I didn't feel that God was there with me. And if He wasn't there with me, then why should anything matter? About 2 years after I left, I got involved in methamphetamines, cocaine, and alcohol. I was on those for 2 years. And I know that I hurt a lot of people by doing this, but I really didn't care, because I was all about me. And when I found out that people were praying for me, like really praying for me, and they really believed in me no matter what I was doing. 2 years into my drug use and alcohol, I stopped. I just stopped. I didn't go to any meetings. I didn't go to outpatient or anything like that. I just decided one day I was going to stop. And about a year after I stopped, that is when I came back into my kids' lives and started spending more time back at home. Coming back to church a little bit more at a time, spending more time with my family. And slowly but surely, Nathan and I have been remarried 4 years. And I am back in the church. I am more active. I am getting to know people that I wouldn't have normally got to know before. And that is my testimony, that prayer, even though I didn't pray for myself during that time, there was a lot of people praying for me.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. She's also working on her PhD, so very smart lady. Shelly Castagna, everybody knows Shelly. Shelly is Lauren's mother-in-law. So it's just a family night here tonight. So Shelly's going to share now.
I have a prayer testimony. It has to do with patience. And I looked a verse of patience from the Bible. It says, this one, Be still before the Lord and wait patiently for him. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. And sometimes we have to be patient and wait for the Lord. About 20 years ago, I've been in Alvarado teaching now for 31 years. A little over 20 years ago, I was very unhappy on my campus. I had a principal who, she liked you until you'd been there a long time, and then she didn't like you, and she treated you rudely. And so I knew that I wanted to get a job someplace else. It wasn't a comfortable environment. I don't want to work like that. So I started praying, please help me find another job in a different school in my district, a different school someplace else. I went on interviews. I put in applications for what I felt like would be the perfect job. I like technology. There was one where I'd get to teach and be in technology and different things, and I thought those would be perfect. I really didn't get the job. They're just, and I didn't get the job. And so I'm not going to quit my job just because I didn't get to leave. So the next fall, I'm back at my campus, and my principal was still rude, and it was uncomfortable for me, but I thought, well, God, you didn't give me the job. It's like when I started teaching in Alvarado, I wanted 5th and 6th grade. He gave me 1st grade. Don't ever say to God, I'm never going to do that, because that's where he's going to put you. And I enjoyed my children. I enjoyed my staff, but the principal just drove me bananas. But I thought, okay, God, you put me here. I don't know why, but I'm going to do my best job. And one day, it was in the spring of the school year, and some of you may not know, public school, they have ESL classes for children who aren't good at English. And the ESL teachers we felt like it sometimes, was in a classroom close to mine. We were friends, and they all knew that I was Adventist, and they knew I didn't eat meat and things like that. Well, she had in her room 2 Russian girls that were here that were Seventh-day Adventist. And the teacher came to me one day so upset. She said, the girls are crying. They are so upset. She said she was real active and would bring them things to eat and do things with them. She brought pork, and they ate pork. And they were sobbing. They were so upset. She brought them to me, and I didn't have a class at that time. And they could converse a little bit. And they said, God hates us. He's not going to like us because we ate pork. Well, and we, as adults, we know that's not true, but they didn't know that wasn't true. And I brought them in, and I talked to them, and I said, God's not going to hate you. It's going to be okay. And I think we also, in the mix of that, we let their parents know what had happened. And I looked at them and I said, do you want to say a prayer? And they said yes. They wanted to say a prayer. And so we prayed as best as we could with the language barrier, and they felt better, and they went back to class. After that happened, I thought, if I had gotten a job someplace else, I wouldn't have been there. Those 2 girls would have been heartsick, thinking God was going to hate them, and they might not have got the message that it was okay, God wasn't going to hate them. So I feel like God left me there for those 2 girls. The next summer, I got a job in my district at the junior high right away, first part of the summer. So I really feel like he put me where I needed to be for someone else, not for me, but for someone else, so that I could help them.
Thank you, Shelley, for sharing. I appreciate it. And our last one to speak now is Lau Hansen. Lau Hansen is Shelley's father. So we had 4 generations speaking tonight. And I think that's pretty exciting to hear from one family of 4 generations what God is doing in their lives. So come on up here, Lau. Some of you may not know it, but Lau was superintendent here in Texas for about 20 years, I think it was. 15. And then you went to Ozark, and you were up there for about 10 years?
Oh, I went up there for 4 years.
4 years. Well, see, I got time wrong, okay? But anyway, Lyle's here to talk to us.
I've been around a long time. Yeah, we moved to Texas in 1964, so we've been here quite a while. Let me go back and tell you a little bit about my background. I was raised on a farm in Iowa as Seventh-day Adventist parents, and their parents were Seventh-day Adventists, and so we have a long line of Adventists. In fact, my grandfather was a preacher part-time. You know, they used to go around and preach in different churches, and he would do that. And so I have quite a background in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. I worked for the Seventh-day Adventist Church for 47 years. And I just want to share with you a story, something that happened to us. During that time, I was superintendent in Texas Conference. By the way, I had 6 sisters and a brother, so we were a pretty large family. But I was superintendent, and we had a board meeting at Jefferson. And I came home to go to Jefferson for that evening, and I was going to come back. And asked my wife if she wanted to ride along, and she said yes, and so we got in the car. I had a Lincoln Town car at that time. And usually I would have put my computer and all this stuff in the back of the car, but for some reason that day I didn't. So I didn't have hardly anything in the car besides us. And as we were going down Interstate 20, the other side of Dallas, there were 6 trucks, all from the same company, and they were running together and blocking the freeway. Once in a while, they'd let a car through, and then they'd go back and forth doing that. And some of the people got pretty irritated with them. In fact, I was a little irritated myself. And so I finally got around all but one truck. And as I was trying to get past him, the guy behind me did a gesture that wasn't very complimentary to these truckers. And I don't know whether they thought that was me that did that. This guy in front, see, he couldn't see all that, what was happening behind. And so I think he probably thought it was me. I don't know. But I got up there and turned on my blinker, and I pulled in, and there was a pickup not too far ahead. And so I got over there. There was another truck, not one of that group, but another truck that was fairly close. There wasn't a whole lot of room, and I pulled in there. And as I did that, I got in it, and I looked in my mirror, and I told Arlene, this guy's going to hit me. He speeded up. And I thought, I've got to get out of here, so I tried to go back. Well, the truck that was in front of me previously had slowed down to exit, so there was nowhere for me to go. And so I got over, but I couldn't get clear over, and he hit me. And we went off into the median and started rolling. Rolled over 3 times. My head all around was, well, when I was in the emergency room, the doctor came in and he said, I don't think I can find anywhere to stitch or anything up here. But he said, here's a little place. He says, maybe I ought to put a staple in there. He says, do you want me to deaden it? And I said, I don't care if you deaden it or not. Everything hurts anyway. But anyway, we rolled and we stopped about 6 feet from oncoming traffic from the other direction. Right side up. Every time we would go over, I would hit my head. And my wife's fairly short, as you know, and her legs went up. And she didn't know it till later what had happened, but the airbag hit her on the back of her right leg. And she was laid up for some time. She came home and we went to the emergency room. I need to tell you this too. We went to the emergency room and they were doing a scan on me because I have an aortic aneurysm that can only be operated through open heart surgery. And we keep a real close eye on it. But I had jammed my chest so bad. I mean, I just hurt all the way around, my ribs and my whole upper torso. And as we laid there in the emergency room, we were talking back and forth. They were talking to my wife, and they'd come in, and we were actually laughing at times. And they said, "You guys are different than anybody we've ever had in here." Said anybody else would have been crying and hollering and yelling. I mean, I had a fractured sternum, and my ribs were just jarred. They're still kind of crooked, but you know. But anyway, as we were there, I thought, what good does it do to yell and holler and all of this? What do you gain from that? And I was laying there. They did a full body scan on me, and my wife would send some, you know, she's kind of humorous sometimes, and she would kind of send some joke in there to me, and she says, "I'm all right," and I said, "Well, I'm still alive, so I guess I'm all right too." And it was a experience that I'd never want to go through again, but I think it really made an impact on the people that worked in that emergency room. And then not only that, but when we got out after I had my scan, they put us side by side. And the doctor, my wife had cuts on her hand, and he says, "I'm going to have to put some stitches in there." So he was getting ready to that. And she says, "Well, will I be able to play the piano after you do that?" And he says, "Yeah." Well, she said, "I can't now." So, I mean, but not only that, but my whole staff that I worked with at the conference office were all there. My family was there. I mean, they let everybody in there to just visit as they were working on us. It was different than I'd ever thought they would be. But, you know, there's so many things that go through your mind as you're rolling over and over 3 times and realize that you're still alive when you stop. Because we both thought that this would be the end. We really did. And I've thought about that. You know, we could have been gone back in 2002. But I have 19 great-grandchildren that would have not known us. And it wouldn't have mattered to us, but I think of the difference it makes to them. Because every one of them has had the opportunity to sit on our laps, spend time in our home, and, you know, one of them's at Southwestern Adventist University now. One of them talked here earlier. She's at Ozark. And I just think of all the things that they would have missed had we not been here for them. And Tyler spoke about when her mother was gone. And between Shelley and I, my wife, and others, we spent a lot of time with those kids. And I think they've done pretty well. So I just want to tell you that God spared us that evening, or that, yeah. I didn't make it to Jefferson, but they got along without me just fine. But God really, really takes care of us at times, and we need to give Him all the praise. And I just am thankful that I had the opportunity to work in the Adventist Church, and that God spared our lives back in 2001. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Lau. I appreciate it. So wonderful testimonies tonight, right? Amen. I have to share one other thing, and Lau, correct me now. I've already been wrong twice. I've probably been 8-10 years ago. I don't know how long ago. I was talking to Lau one day. He was telling me about when he lived in Keene. He's raising his kids, and he bought a four-wheeler for them. And they would go around the house with this four-wheeler, and it tore up the grass. And his neighbor got upset because the grass was getting torn up around the house and in the yard and everything. And I think it was Arlene, Lau's wife, that said this. Maybe it was him. I don't remember. Correct me, Lau. Told the neighbor. The neighbor came over complaining about look at my lawn. I got a real nice, beautiful lawn. Your lawn looks terrible. And the neighbor said, we're not raising grass. We're raising kids. And that has stuck with me all these years, that sometimes we get focused on that which is not important. And Lau is very focused on his family. And you can see that tonight as different members of the family have talked to you tonight. Family is very important to Lau and his wife. So at this time, I'd like to divide up in groups of 3 to 4, and I'd like for you to pray together. Before we do that, though, I'd like to invite you to come to Sabbath School and Church tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, Ann Fromm is speaking, and Darren and Carol Slider are speaking, and then the Freeze are speaking. They're from American AFM. They're speaking tomorrow morning for a short period of time, and then they're speaking tomorrow night for Vespers. So you want to come out for Vespers, AFM Vesper tomorrow evening. And then for church service, we have 3 young people speaking. We got Andrew Austin, Andrew Stowell, and Amy Watts. One of my young people came to me this week and said, Daddy, I don't have a testimony to give this year. And I said, that's okay, son. And so if I have a young person sitting here tonight that would like to give a testimony, just contact me after the service, because I'm looking for a young person to give a testimony during church tomorrow. So if there's a young person here tonight I'd like to share tomorrow during church, let me know. At this time, let's divide up in our groups. When you get done praying, you're free to leave. We get in groups of 3 or 4, maybe 5, and pray together, share your prayer requests and everything, and pray for it. Does anybody have a prayer request like to share with the whole group at this time? Anybody got a prayer? Go, Miss Ann. Okay, she'd like for everybody to pray this evening for her son, Daryl. He had a stroke here, 6 months? Okay. 14th of August. And so pray for Daryl tonight. Yes, ma'am. Okay, pray for Chevy Kinsley, Carol's grandson. Okay, so as you pray your groups, pray for that. Any other buddy that want to have a public prayer request that they want the whole group to pray for? 2 tests on Monday. That's very important. That's true. So pray for Alan for Monday for his test. Any other public prayer? Yes, ma'am.
His last name is Rowe. He's an educational man in Alaska, and he has very severe cancer. They don't give him but just
Pray for Rod, you said? Rod Rowe and Alaska Conference, educational guy. Yes, Amy. Okay. So pray for Amy as she's deciding what academy to go. Any other public prayer requests? Yes. Pathfinder Sabbath to go well tomorrow. Okay, good. That's a good request there. All are good requests. But I see a bunch of Pathfinders up there. Any other public prayer requests tonight? Okay, let's divide into groups of 3 to 5, and let's pray together. When you finish praying, you're free to leave. We'll see you tomorrow morning for Sabbath school. Thank you for coming.